Hi, I'm Darla. My sister used to call me the Maid, sometimes right to my face, sometimes with a laugh in front of guests. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was realizing the house I helped build, the life I held together. She claimed it all as hers. No credit, no thank you. Just a fake smile and a forged signature. So one day, I left her the keys and a note. I walked into the dining room with a tray of glasses I'd just hand-washed, each one perfectly dried with the linen towel tucked in my apron pocket. The room smelled like roasted garlic and rosemary, and the candles Celeste insisted on lighting flickered against the freshly painted eggshell walls. I remembered the hours I spent sanding and painting that wall when we moved in. My back ached for 2 days afterward. Celeste hadn't lifted a finger back then, but now, here she was, floating around like some suburban duchess. "Put the flowers on the side table, not the buffet. It blocks the wine," she snapped at me as she flitted past in her overpriced heels. I bit my lip and nodded. I'd spent the whole day chopping, stirring, cleaning, quietly making everything look effortless while Celeste played hostess. This dinner was her big show for Vernon, her new boyfriend. The house? The one we technically co-owned? Tonight it was being staged as her castle. When Vernon walked in, tall, too tanned for October, cologne first, personality second, he gave me a passing glance and offered a half-smile, clearly unsure of who I was. Celeste grinned like she'd been waiting for that moment. "Oh, that's just Darla, our unofficial maid. Keeps the place running." Laughter followed. Casual, careless laughter that dug its way into my chest. I smiled. I had to. But I felt my face heat up so fast I thought my ears might catch fire. My name, my worth. Reduced to a punchline over shrimp cocktail. Dinner followed in the formal dining room, the one with the antique chandelier I polished last weekend. I sat at the far end, across from a couple whose names I didn't catch, next to a woman who told me she just adored Celeste's taste in decor. She assumed I was the hired help. Somewhere between the salad and the seared duck breast, Vernon turned to Celeste and said, "So, how long has she been staying with you guys?" Celeste barely looked up from her wine. "She's kind of just been living here. You know, family stuff." I froze. Another guest laughed. "Hey, freeloaders gotta eat too, right?" It was the kind of joke that was supposed to be harmless, but it landed like a brick. I said nothing. I just wrapped my fingers around my wineglass and gripped until my knuckles turned pale. If I'd squeezed any harder, it would have shattered in my hand. I didn't finish dinner. I excused myself with a polite smile and went upstairs to my room, if I could still call it that. The door still creaked on the right hinge, just like when I moved in years ago after Mom passed. Celeste had wanted to sell the house, but I'd insisted we keep it. I handled the paperwork, paid the lawyer fees, even covered the mortgage payments when she was drowning in debt after that second bankruptcy. She'd forgotten that. Or maybe she never cared to remember. I sat on the edge of my bed, the sounds of clinking glasses and laughter echoing faintly through the floor. Then I stood, walked over to the closet, and pulled down the old plastic storage bin I hadn't opened in years. Inside, neatly labeled folders, copies of the mortgage agreement, the original deed, bank receipts, my name right there beside hers. I held up one of the wine glasses from the bin, part of a set I bought the year we moved in, the same style she used tonight, the same kind she mocked me over. My reflection stared back at me through the glass, tired but not broken. That was new. All this time I thought I was being patient, supportive, family. But tonight, something shifted. My heart didn't ache. It hardened. I wasn't going to cry about it. I was going to remember. She wanted to call me a maid? Fine. Let's see how well she does when the mortgage notices stop getting paid. By the following Tuesday, the silence between us had settled into something sharp and cold. We weren't fighting, not openly. That was never Celeste's way. She preferred little cuts that didn't bleed right away. So I stayed quiet too, but not passive. I watched, I noted, and then something new landed right on the kitchen counter, unwrapped like a gift she didn't even try to hide. I came downstairs that morning to grab my planner. The sun hit the counter just right, spotlighting a glossy magazine next to her empty coffee mug. Her lipstick left a faint mauve ring on the rim, and a faint trace of vanilla creamer lingered in the air. There she was, on the cover. My sister, beaming like she'd won a national award. The headline read, "Modern Maven: How Celeste Built Her Dream Home After Divorce." I froze mid-step, then slowly reached for the magazine, flipping through the pages with careful fingers. There it was again. Her face, our living room, even the kitchen behind her. Except, it was all hers now. According to the article, this place had been her fresh start, her post-divorce success story, her sanctuary. I wasn't mentioned, not once, not even a vague acknowledgement of shared ownership. She spoke like she'd built this house brick by brick with her bare hands. "I did it all on my own," she'd said in the interview. The journalist? Vernon's friend. I remembered him now. Ben. He'd been at dinner 2 months ago, sitting across from me, sipping Merlot, and never once asking who I was. Of course. I closed the magazine and set it down without a word. I didn't slam it. That would have given too much away. I walked through the house slowly, one room at a time. The living room. She'd replaced the old family photos with abstract art. The hallway. My college diploma, gone. The patio door. She'd moved the potted succulents I kept alive for years. And the garden I built from scratch with my bare hands, the one that had been my therapy during Mom's final months. The article credited it as Celeste's personal meditation space. I stood in the hallway a moment longer, letting the silence fill the gap between the person I thought I was in this house and the ghost she'd recast me as. "Hey," Vernon's voice pulled me from my thoughts. He strolled in wearing a navy polo and gym shorts, sipping from a protein shaker like this was some casual Sunday. "We're doing a photo shoot this weekend, for the follow-up spread. Hope you don't mind staying out of the shots. They want a clean aesthetic, you know?" I blinked once. That was all. "Sure," I said. "No problem." He didn't notice the way I didn't smile. He never did. Later that night, I sat at my desk and opened my old laptop. It still had the faded sticker from a tech conference I attended back when I was freelancing in finance consulting. A part of my life that no one in this house ever asked about. I logged into my old Google Drive. It took a second to remember the password, but then it opened, and there it was, a folder titled House Legal. Inside, a PDF copy of the deed dated 5 years ago, both our names side by side, equal owners. I double-checked the watermark, the notary stamp, the timestamp. Still valid, still binding. I printed a hard copy and slipped it into a red folder, then slid it to the back of the nightstand drawer, under some old birthday cards and a broken watch I hadn't gotten around to fixing. I didn't confront her, not yet. Celeste thrived on drama, on spectacle. She wanted reactions so she could play victim. I wasn't giving her that. Instead, I started a spreadsheet, labeled each folder, began marking dates, patterns, discrepancies. She thought she was writing the narrative alone. Let her, because I was about to take the pen back. I was updating the spreadsheet when my phone buzzed, just past midnight. I almost ignored it, thinking it was another promotional text or a spam call. But when I glanced at the screen, I froze. "Mila. Thought you might want to see this. Sorry, I had no idea it was like this now." Attached was a screenshot, a group chat. Celeste's name lit up in neon blue at the top of one message bubble. "She's like an emotional sponge. I swear she just absorbs everyone's energy and gives back nothing. Still hanging around like dead weight we haven't figured out how to shake yet." There were laughing emojis underneath, thumbs ups, a few so true replies. I stared at it. Mila had been my lab partner junior year. We lost touch after graduation, like most people do. I hadn't seen her in over a decade. But somehow, she'd ended up in this group with Celeste, probably through Vernon's network. She hadn't sent another message. No follow-up, no apology, just the screenshot, like she was quietly sliding a knife across the table and telling me who had held it all along. I didn't reply. I didn't cry either. I just locked my screen and set the phone face down on my desk. The thing about betrayal is, it doesn't always shout. Sometimes it arrives on tiptoe, wrapped in quiet confirmation of what you were too tired to admit. The next morning, I needed to breathe somewhere that wasn't painted with her fingerprints. So I walked down to a coffee shop on Peachtree, a little brick place tucked between a vintage bookstore and a nail salon. I used to go there back when life had more curiosity than survival in it. I stood in line, trying to decide between a chai or a plain black coffee, when I heard someone say my name. Darla? I turned and saw Caleb. Caleb. It had been, 8, 9 years? He looked older. Fuller beard, a little gray at the temples. He was still handsome in that quiet, introspective way. Still had that half smile that made you think he was about to apologize for something, even when he hadn't done anything wrong. Wow, I said, stunned. You still come here? He nodded. Now and then. I teach a night class down the block. Good to see you, I added, genuinely meaning it. He was a soft spot I'd packed away neatly with no hard feelings. We talked for maybe 30 seconds, how he was doing, how I was still around the neighborhood, when the air shifted. Celeste's voice, loud, sharp, sweetened with artificial charm. Well, look who finally left the house, she called out, breezing in like a gust of perfume and disdain. She didn't wait to be invited into the moment. She simply took it. Oh, Caleb, don't you love surprises? She chirped. She used to cry about you for months, you know. Like, full-on ugly sobs. I think we burned through half a tissue box a week. I heard laughter from behind her, probably Vernon, lingering at the entrance. The room went still. Caleb's smile faltered. I didn't respond. Not a word. I picked up my coffee when it came, offered Caleb a silent nod, and walked out the front door without looking back. I took the long way home, cut through Piedmont Park, let the air wash over me. I didn't need to defend myself to a memory, or let her rewrite yet another piece of my story. Back home, I went straight to my room and pulled out my journal. Not the polished one I used for lists and receipts, but the beat-up leather-bound one I hadn't touched since Mom died. I sat down, pen in hand, and instead of writing what hurt, I started a list. Birthday dinner, 2018, Celeste. Accidentally posted a photo of me mid-blink in the group chat, captioned, If despair had a face. Thanksgiving, 2019. Told everyone I was between jobs while I was actively consulting 3 clients. Baby shower, 2021. Laughed in front of our cousins when I mentioned freezing my eggs. Called me Miss Independent without the plan. I filled half a page before stopping. Then I drew a line across the bottom. Underneath it I wrote, She counts on me staying quiet. I capped the pen, closed the book. There was no flare of rage, no pounding heart. Just a steadiness in my hands I hadn't felt in a long while. A kind of readiness. Not for war, but for reclamation. Let her talk. Let her joke. I was done giving her the stage. The next morning started like any other, until it didn't. I was rinsing a cup in the kitchen sink when my phone vibrated on the counter. I dried my hands and glanced at the screen. A subject line popped up from my credit monitoring service. New inquiry, your credit was checked. I frowned. I hadn't applied for anything recently. Curious, I opened the email. Mortgage lender, hard inquiry. Under my full legal name, that was impossible. I read the message again, slowly, then once more. Same name, same address, same social security number. My hands tightened around the edge of the counter. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. But let's be honest. My instincts had already finished the race. 10 minutes later, I was pulling into the parking lot of the bank branch listed in the alert. I hadn't even changed out of my sneakers. I just grabbed my purse, phone, and keys and drove. Inside, the air conditioning blasted down like an interrogation lamp. I approached the front desk calmly, smiled, and asked to speak with someone regarding a recent mortgage inquiry tied to my name. The woman behind the desk, polite but distracted, typed a few things, asked me to wait, and then waved me toward a desk near the window. A bank manager introduced himself, Mr. Ramsey, and motioned for me to sit. He had that well-trained customer service expression, friendly but guarded, always anticipating conflict. "How can I help today?" he asked. "There was an inquiry on my credit," I said, placing my ID on the table. "I didn't initiate it. I'd like to see the documentation." He clicked around on his computer. "Ah, yes, a refinance application came through last week for the property on Glen Ridge." I nodded once. "That's my house, or half of it?" He clicked again, then turned the monitor slightly toward me. "Here's what we received." I leaned in. There it was, Celeste's name as primary applicant, mine listed as co-owner, monthly income estimates, property value, and then the signatures, hers, and mine. Except it wasn't mine. It was a lazy imitation. Too neat, too swooping. My real signature slanted, tight from years of writing checks in dim lighting. This one looked like someone had practiced it, maybe off an old lease or a birthday card. I sat very still, watching the screen. I didn't argue, didn't raise my voice. I simply asked, "Could I get a printed copy of this for my records?" "Of course," he replied quickly, already sensing something was off. When he handed over the printouts, I thanked him and stood. "Miss Monroe," he said softly before I walked out, "if you believe this is unauthorized, we can flag it internally and delay processing." I met his eyes. "Not yet, but thank you." I made it to the car before the anger set in. Not the frantic, messy kind, but the cold, clean sort. The kind that made your thoughts sharpen. The kind that made your jaw clench tight enough to leave bruises. I didn't cry, not even a blink. Instead, I sat there, gripping the steering wheel until the tension in my arms faded. Then I drove home. When I got back, I went straight to my room, opened the nightstand drawer, and added the new documents to the red folder, tucking them behind the deed and the saved receipts. I found a sticky note and scribbled, "Deed, bank record, witness." That evening, I logged into our joint utilities account and took screenshots of every payment I'd made over the last 5 years. Rent, maintenance, repairs. Her name was never on a single receipt, not once. She'd used my name to secure a better interest rate, used my signature to lock in equity, and now she was pretending I didn't even exist on paper. I wasn't a co-owner in her world. I was a shadow. I pinned the checklist to my bulletin board, then sat back and stared at it. Around 9, there was a soft knock at my bedroom door. "Hey!" Celeste's voice floated through, sugary and casual. "Just wanted to see if you're up for watching that show tonight. Vernon fell asleep early." I didn't move, didn't say a word. A pause, then footsteps retreating down the hallway. I waited until the hallway light turned off, then turned back to my laptop. I opened a new spreadsheet. Labeled it, Narrative Control, Day 1. The day of the dinner started like any other, only quieter. There was a tension in the air, like a string pulled taut. I woke up earlier than usual, not because I was excited, but because I needed space from the performance I knew was coming. Celeste was already in the kitchen, pretending to be flustered with timing. "Darla, could you handle the table settings? And maybe whip up your famous vinaigrette? You know how Aunt Noreen loves it." I nodded, but said nothing. I moved around the kitchen like I was just another part of the house. Useful, silent, expected. She barely looked at me as she gave out instructions like it was her own production. While she buzzed around adjusting platters and flapping about fresh-cut hydrangeas like they were royalty, I made sure everything looked effortless. I laid out the cloth napkins she'd forgotten in the laundry room, polished the silver she left streaked, checked the seating chart she'd hastily scribbled onto a sticky note. She was too busy perfecting her image to notice how many pieces she was borrowing from me. Guests started arriving around 6. My aunt and uncle from Tennessee, their grown daughter Lena, and a few cousins I hadn't seen since our grandmother's funeral. Vernon opened the door with his signature overcompensating charm, and Celeste played the gracious hostess as if she hadn't left me out of every conversation leading up to this dinner. I smiled, not because I wanted to, but because it helped me blend in. It bought me time. Once everyone settled with their drinks, Celeste clinked her glass with a butter knife. "Before we dig in, I just want to say how thankful I am that our family could all come together under one roof. My roof." She paused, eyes scanning the table like a performer waiting for her cue. And of course, none of this would be possible without our very own Darla, the maid who keeps the engine running. Literally. Laughter spilled out around me, the kind that people give when they don't know whether to laugh or cringe. Vernon chuckled into his glass. My cousin Lena looked down at her plate. Aunt Noreen blinked, uncomfortable, her wine glass hovering midair. I sat perfectly still, my fork balanced delicately against the rim of my plate. No smile, no rebuttal, just silence. Celeste moved on quickly, but the moment left a bitter aftertaste that clung like smoke. I excused myself not long after dessert was served and slipped upstairs. Later that night, Once the last car had pulled away and the hallway light flicked off, I opened Instagram. My eyes landed on Celeste's latest reel, already racking up comments and likes. A soft piano melody played under a montage of the evening, sparkling wine, floral arrangements, wide-angle shots of the dining room I decorated. A voiceover purred, "When you build something all on your own, every corner tells your story." I paused the video. There I was, in the background of a single shot, pouring dressing into a serving dish. A blur, a prop. No mention, no credit. Caption: "Built it from the ground up, no shortcuts, just vision." I didn't cry, I didn't rage. I simply stared at the screen until my reflection in the dark glass told me it was time to stop being a footnote. I reached for my journal, turned to a clean page and wrote, "One more time, and I make it public." Then I opened my email and began drafting a clean timeline. I attached copies of receipts, screenshots, dates of mortgage payments, photos of documents. Everything went into a new folder named Leverage. Before shutting down my laptop, I opened Celeste's reel one last time. I didn't play it again. I just read the comments. "So inspiring, Celeste. You're the definition of self-made. She really did it all on her own." I whispered to myself, "Not for long." The following morning, as I sipped lukewarm coffee from a chipped mug, a new alert pinged on my phone. Another inquiry had been made to a mortgage lender. My name was attached again, only this time the lender was different. I stared at the email. I hadn't submitted anything. No conversations, no consent. Just a new inquiry, same house, same tactic. I forwarded the message to myself, printed the PDF attachment, and laid it on the dining table. I circled my name in red and wrote a word in capital letters across the top: fraud. This wasn't a slip-up. It wasn't desperation. It was a calculated move, practiced, refined, and meant to get past me unnoticed. I didn't scream, I didn't pace. Instead, I got dressed, gathered my documents, and drove to the bank where the application had been submitted. The drive took 20 minutes. I played no music. I needed the silence to think. If I let the noise in, I'd lose the edge I'd finally built. Inside the bank, the air was over-conditioned and smelled faintly of toner and floor polish. I asked for the loan manager and presented my ID. I explained the situation in a calm, professional tone. I used words like unauthorized use, forged co-signature, and document discrepancy. I didn't beg. I didn't accuse. I reported. The woman behind the desk pulled up the digital file. Her screen tilted slightly toward me, enough for me to see the signature field. It looked more like my name this time. The curve of the D, the slant of the R. It was familiar, almost perfect, but not quite. It was too clean, too measured, like someone had practiced on a napkin until they got close enough. "I didn't sign this," I said, steady. She glanced at me, then back at the screen. "Would you like to file a formal dispute?" "Yes," I said, "and I'd like a copy of every page." She nodded, began printing. I waited, hands folded in my lap. My fingers didn't twitch. My jaw didn't clench. I just watched the papers stack in the tray like evidence in a trial. Back home, I slid the new file into the red folder, behind the first forged refinance, the deed, the utility bills. Then I moved to my laptop and opened a new tab. Voice recorder. I didn't need to yell. I needed to build a timeline no one could ignore. 3 weeks earlier, I'd started filming myself around the house, partly out of instinct, partly because I knew where this was headed. I'd placed the small camera discreetly on the bookshelf in the hallway, angled just enough to catch the living room and kitchen. The footage was unglamorous. Me unclogging the sink, sweeping up broken glass, replacing light bulbs. There were clips of me adjusting the thermostat when the power shorted, calling the plumber when the water line leaked. One clip from a rainy Tuesday afternoon showed me carrying in groceries while Vernon scrolled his phone on the couch. He didn't look up, just muttered, "She loves playing house, let her." Another showed Celeste bragging on a call. "Of course the house is mine. I mean, Darla's just around." The timestamp didn't lie. Neither did the lens. I edited the footage into short time-stamped segments, labeled them daily upkeep, verbal evidence, financial contributions. It was meticulous, maybe even obsessive, But it felt less like revenge and more like reclaiming my place in a story she was trying to rewrite without me. The next day, I called the bank and asked for a meeting with the branch manager and a notary. I walked in wearing a plain navy blouse and carried a manila envelope labeled documentation. Inside, the original deed with both our names, the forged refinance papers, screenshots of mortgage payments, all under my account, and a USB with the footage. The manager reviewed it all, nodding slowly. "This isn't a misunderstanding," he said, pressing the folder shut. "This is a documented misrepresentation." "Thank you," I said. That's all I needed to hear. When I got home, the house was quiet. Celeste and Vernon had gone to a late lunch. I didn't wait for them to come back. I placed a slim folder on the kitchen counter, right beside her curated stack of home magazines. The label read, "Just in case you forget who really owns this place." Inside were the still images from the video clips, me scrubbing floors, cooking, signing bills, and both versions of the refinance documents. Hers with the forgery, mine with the truth. I didn't add a note. I didn't threaten. She'd know what it meant. Then I returned to my room, opened my laptop, and renamed the video file, Inheritance or Invasion. The silence in the house that night wasn't peace. It was the sound of panic hiding behind a locked door. The next morning, I found the evidence folder exactly where I'd left it. But the rest of the kitchen told a different story. The dishwasher had been emptied, a fresh pot of coffee brewed. My favorite mug sat clean and waiting on the counter, handle turned toward me, just the way I like it. Celeste was trying to set a stage. Over breakfast, she offered me eggs. Scrambled, light on salt. My preference, not hers. Vernon stayed unusually quiet, eyes darting between us like a spectator unsure which team to cheer for. "Thought we could all use a reset," Celeste said softly. "Start from a better place." I looked up from my toast, nodded once, and said nothing, because I knew what this was. She wasn't sorry, she was nervous, and when Celeste got nervous, she performed. But by lunchtime, her act had worn thin. She hovered around the hallway near my door, trying to initiate small talk, offering baked goods, then advice I hadn't asked for. She was placating. That meant she was hiding something. By Thursday, I took the bus downtown to the courthouse archives. I told Vernon I had errands to run, and Celeste didn't ask, which confirmed my suspicion. They thought I was retreating. I walked into the dusty records office, past a row of humming microfilm machines, and gave the clerk the information I had. Celeste's full name, her last known filing address, her supposed clean financial record. 10 minutes later, the clerk returned with a thick manila folder. Inside, the truth. 6 years ago, Celeste had filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. I skimmed the details, heart pounding slower with every page. There was an old boyfriend listed as her co-signer. His name didn't ring a bell, but the paperwork showed her debts were significant. Credit cards, a repossessed car, medical collections. She'd declared no assets at the time. No mention of property, no mention of me. And that made her mortgage application a lie from the very start. I took photos with my phone. Case number, signature page, discharge date. Then I folded the paperwork back, smiled at the clerk, and thanked her. On the way home, I stopped for a smoothie, something cold, simple. I needed to sit with what I had found, not in anger, but in preparation. I now had everything: motive, history, proof. And just as I was finishing the last sip, my phone rang. It was the school. "Hi, Miss Monroe," the secretary's voice came through. "We just wanted to confirm, Kira is scheduled to leave with her Aunt Celeste today?" I nearly dropped the cup. "No, she is not," I said, standing up fast. "Do not release her. I'm 10 minutes away." I hung up before she could respond. Traffic was light, thank God. I made it to the front office in under 9. Celeste was already inside, chatting with the school staff like nothing was amiss. Kira sat near the front, backpack slung over one shoulder, clearly confused. "She told us she had temporary guardianship," the secretary said, glancing nervously at Celeste. "We were just waiting for confirmation." I pulled out my wallet, handed over the custody papers, signed, notarized, and sealed with the court's stamp. "Sole custody," I said. "No temporary, no weekend exceptions." Celeste opened her mouth to protest, but I cut her off. You show up again without my consent, I file a restraining order, and next time, I bring an officer. The room went silent. Celeste smiled thinly, all charm gone from her voice. It was just a miscommunication. Relax, Darla. I turned to the secretary. We're done here. That night, after dinner with Kira and a long, calming bedtime routine, I sat down at my desk. I emailed my attorney the bankruptcy report, attached the refinance forms, side by side, labeled each attachment clearly. There would be no confusion. Then I copied the school's call log and wrote a brief note. Attempted unauthorized pickup. Consider protective filing options. At nearly midnight, Vernon knocked on my door. He didn't wait for an invitation, just stepped inside, arms crossed like he was bracing for fallout. I didn't know she was doing that, he said. With Kira. That wasn't my idea. No one said it was, I replied evenly. But you're still here, which tells me all I need to know. Darla, she's not thinking clearly. She hasn't been for years, I said. You're welcome to keep enabling her. Just know, I'm not part of that anymore. He lingered another beat, then left without another word. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I uploaded every file into a cloud folder and changed the access to read-only. My attorney would have full access by morning. And Celeste? She started packing. Not everything. Just a suitcase, some folders, one of her makeup bags. I knew that look. She wasn't leaving. She was recalibrating. But this time I wasn't waiting around to be her collateral damage. 2 days passed without a single slam of a door or snide remark. That alone told me something was brewing. Celeste walked through the house like a guest, overly polite, mildly cheerful, eyes constantly checking me, as if trying to measure how much I knew, how far I might go. Vernon lingered on the edges, keeping his head down, muttering excuses to leave the room whenever we crossed paths. Then, one afternoon, as I was pruning dead leaves from the hydrangeas, a car I didn't recognize pulled up to the curb. An older woman stepped out, gray hair tucked beneath a pale scarf, eyes sharp behind thin-rimmed glasses. You must be Darla, she said. I nodded, brushing soil from my palms. I was a friend of your mother's, she added softly. We used to meet every week at the diner down by Riverfront. She made me promise something years ago, and I've been holding on to it, waiting for the right time. She reached into her bag and handed me a sealed envelope, the kind that turns your pulse quiet. Inside was a will, dated, notarized, original ink still crisp. It stated clearly, without ambiguity, that the house was to be left solely to me. Not shared, not split, mine. I blinked at the signature, my mother's handwriting, unmistakable. She gave this to me just before her last surgery, the woman said. Told me to deliver it if things ever got messy. I thanked her, holding the paper like it weighed more than it should. Celeste had known. She had hidden this, buried it like it was nothing more than a receipt. By early evening, I was sitting across from my attorney, the will spread across his glass-topped desk. He adjusted his reading glasses, eyes scanning the lines twice before nodding slowly. This trumps everything, he said. You ready to do this? I nodded. I've been ready for a while. The next day, Vernon texted me, said he wanted to talk. We met at a cafe downtown, the kind with reclaimed wood tables and coffee served in mason jars. He didn't order anything, just sat down, eyes bloodshot, and sighed like someone about to bleed truth. I didn't know how deep it went, he said. At first, she just asked me to clean up the narrative. Told me to say I helped buy the house, that I managed finances, but I didn't. He rubbed his hands together like they itched. She didn't even open the bills. You did all of it. She just told stories online. I thought it was harmless at first, but you built that life, Darla, not her. I didn't offer comfort, didn't forgive. I simply said, I know. Then I stood, gathered my purse, and left him there, staring at the untouched coffee. The legal motion was filed within 24 hours. I submitted the original will, the forgery evidence, the refinance fraud, the custody stunt, all of it. Celeste was served papers in a quiet envelope slid under her door. 30 days to vacate. No claims to equity. No further rights to financial access. She didn't scream. She didn't plead. She just stared at the envelope like it might disappear if she blinked long enough. That night, when I came home, the house smelled of basil and roasted garlic. Celeste had made dinner, fettuccine, candles lit, napkins folded, like a last-ditch stage set for one more manipulation. I didn't sit. I didn't eat. I walked to the counter, pulled a small silver key from my pocket, and laid it beside a folded letter. She turned, smiling tightly. "What's this?" I met her gaze, steady as stone. "Good luck with the mortgage." Then I walked out. The air outside felt cleaner than it had in months. Behind me, the house remained lit. But it was no longer mine to fix, no longer a war I needed to fight. I had reclaimed everything she tried to erase, and I didn't need her apology to feel whole. It had been 3 weeks since I walked out of that house for good. 3 weeks since I handed over the key and let silence carry the weight of everything I could have screamed. The legal transfer was finalized without a hitch. My name now stood alone on the paperwork, but I no longer needed it. The house was listed, shown, and sold within 10 days. A young couple with a toddler had fallen in love with the garden. I didn't tell them I planted it. The day I returned with the realtor to grab the last box, an old set of journals and a ceramic bowl my mother gave me, was overcast. Fitting. The door creaked open and the scent hit me first. Not food, not flowers, just something empty. The kind of emptiness that hangs around after forced perfection loses its audience. I walked past the living room without pause, into the hallway, and turned left. My old room. I hadn't stepped foot inside since the day I found the real will. The walls were beige now, bland, flat, impersonal. Not a single photo, not even a pushpin left behind. The shelves were stripped. The closet doors open like a mouth mid-yawn. Nothing but space. "Not even a nail on the wall," I whispered. And yet I smiled. That room had never really been mine. Not when Celeste claimed it was temporary, or insisted I keep my boxes in the attic to make space for guests. There was no trace of me now. No erasure needed. I had outgrown it all. After dropping off the final box in my car, I took a detour on the drive home. Passed by Kira's school, the old park with the tilted swing, the bakery where we used to stop on Saturdays before Celeste said pastries weren't on brand. The neighborhood felt smaller somehow, or maybe I just stopped trying to fit into its mold. At the apartment, Kira met me at the door, cheeks flushed from running with the neighbor's kids. "Did you get the bowl?" she asked, bouncing slightly. I nodded. "And the blue journal, too." She grinned. "Can we hang the wind chimes now?" We stepped out to our tiny balcony, just big enough for 2 folding chairs and a tomato plant. She held the chimes while I found a hook along the railing. As the bells tinkled in the breeze, Kira looked up at me. "Mom? Are we happier now?" I turned to her, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "We're freer now." She seemed satisfied with that, resting her chin on the balcony rail to watch the chimes dance. Later that week, while picking up takeout, I noticed the bookstore on East Monroe had its windows papered with a sign, "Next chapter coming soon." They were repainting the trim a soft sea glass green. The door stood open, and I peeked inside to see ladders, fresh shelves, and someone unpacking boxes of novels. I stood there for a moment longer than necessary, the scent of fresh paint and new beginnings floating toward me. On the walk home, the air felt different, cooler, easier. Not because everything was perfect. It wasn't. Celeste's name still hovered in hushed conversations. At the school drop-off line, one mom avoided my eyes. Another offered a tight smile that said more than words. I didn't return the looks, didn't correct the whispers. Let the silence speak for me. Back at the apartment, I poured a cup of tea, pulled my journal from the shelf, and sat beside the window. I thought about the house, about every room I had helped restore, every wall I painted, every corner I quietly claimed and lost again. I didn't feel bitter. I felt rewritten, not erased. And this time, I held the pen. Sometimes healing doesn't come in loud victories. It comes in the quiet rooms we finally leave behind. I used to think walking away meant losing. Now I understand. It means choosing peace over chaos, truth over performance, and self-respect over pleasing people who never clapped for you. If there's one thing I hope you take from my story, It's this: silence is not weakness. Choosing yourself is not selfish. And when you reclaim your voice, even after years of being talked over, that's not rebellion, it's restoration. We all carry rooms inside us. Some we outgrow, some we rebuild, and some we finally learn to lock behind us, for good. But I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from a situation that no longer served you, even when no one else understood? Or maybe you're still in the middle of it, trying to find your way out. If this story touched you, comment 1 inch or tell me where you're watching from. I'd love to know who's listening. And if it didn't quite hit home, that's okay too. Let me know why and where you're tuning in from. Your voice matters here. If you felt even a flicker of something real in this video, subscribe to the channel, because these aren't just stories. They're reminders that you're not alone, and there's always another chapter waiting.
I married the man I deeply love, and finally we became the couple I had always dreamed of. To top it all off, we were even holding a wedding ceremony blessed by so many people. Being able to marry the one I love, I was sure my parents in heaven would be happy. That's what I thought, but I had no idea about the tragedy that awaited me. I will never forgive those who ruined everything. I am going to get back at them. My name is Mary. I was proposed to by Thomas, my boyfriend who is 2 years older than me, and we got married when I was 27. I lost my father when I was very young, and my mother passed away due to illness 2 years ago. Thomas supported me both physically and emotionally when I was at my lowest. We got married on the anniversary of our 2.5 years of dating and started a blissful newlywed life. Due to my husband's busy work schedule, we decided to have the wedding ceremony when things calmed down. On my husband's days off, we went to the wedding venue and started preparing for our wedding. We had the date of our ceremony fixed, and it was time to decide on our guests. I have an aunt and uncle who love me like their real daughter in place of my deceased parents. After my father's death, they brought me lots of cooked meals as my mother was busy working all the time. They also kept me company when my mother was at work so I wouldn't feel lonely. Moreover, when my mother fell sick, they shared all her chores so that I wouldn't have to carry the burden by myself. Even when my mother's condition didn't improve and I was down, my aunt would gently encourage me, "It's okay, your mother is definitely going to get better. So Mary, you also believe and wait for her, okay?" No matter how tough or painful things got, I was able to overcome them because I had my aunt and uncle by my side. That's why I wanted them to sit in the seats designated for family on the bride's side. To convey this, I visited my aunt and uncle's house after a long time. "Mary, congratulations on your marriage," my aunt greeted me with tears in her eyes. "Thank you, Auntie. So I was thinking I want you guys to sit in the seats designated for families at my wedding. Is that okay?" "Of course." Then my aunt brought out a big box. "Mary, why don't you open it?" Prompted by my aunt, I opened the box in front of me. Inside was a pure white wedding dress. The dress, made of beautiful silk fabric, had a perfect balance of elegance and cuteness. The décolletage was decorated with vibrant lace, and a silhouette was cleverly designed to form a beautiful A-line with cute flower embroideries on the hem. The size was smaller than usual, clearly made just for me. I loved the wedding dress at first sight. "Huh? Why this?" "Well, your mother, my sister, she made it." "What? Mom did that?" The wedding dress was handmade by my mother despite battling illness. She tirelessly stitched it together day after day, custom fit for my petite frame. She asked my aunt, "If Mary ever gets married, please give her this." This was a creation filled with all the love my mother could muster in her final days. "Mary, dear, you must wear this dress at your wedding. Your mother would be so pleased," said my aunt, her eyes brimming with tears and a tender smile on her face. Her heartfelt sentiment moved me to tears. "Thank you, Auntie. You've kept it safe all this time. I promise I'll wear this dress at my wedding. You have to come and see me wear it," I said, clutching my mother's handcrafted wedding dress, full of happiness as I returned home. Once home, I hung the dress on my bedroom wall and gazed at it intently. I was determined to make my wedding a success, wearing this dress in honor of my mother. That feeling only got stronger as the days passed. Then one day, disaster struck. When I returned home from work, the wedding dress that should have been hanging on my wall was gone. "What? It's gone? Why? I know I left it hanging right here." Panicking, I pulled out my phone to call the cops. Just then, my husband walked in the door. "Oh, Mary, what's wrong?" Seeing me in tears, he sensed something was amiss and rushed over to me. My dress is gone. I had it hanging right here. I think someone stole it," I said. My desperate plea elicited an unexpected reaction from my husband. "Oh, is that all?" "Huh? What do you mean, Thomas? Do you know something?" I asked hesitantly. My husband responded with a shocking revelation. "Of course I know. My sister says she's getting married soon and wanted to borrow your dress." "Huh? Yes, my sister asked if she could borrow your dress, and I readily agreed. She used the spare key from our mailbox to pick it up." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My husband lent my wedding dress to his sister without asking me. As I raged at him, he waved his hands dismissively as if it were no big deal. "Our wedding is still a while away, so it's not a problem, right?" Besides, my sister was thrilled. She's broke and was happy she wouldn't have to pay for a dress. Happy she wouldn't have to pay for a dress? I never gave permission for any of this. I was livid at his blatant disregard for my feelings. That dress was handmade by my mother specifically for me. "Didn't I tell you that, Thomas? It's tailored perfectly to my size. Why would you lend it out without asking me first?" "Calm down. It's not like it's a one-time use thing. You can still wear it, so what's the issue?" "The issue? Why would your sister wear my dress before I do? No matter how you look at it, that's just wrong." Even after I explained why I was upset, my husband refused to apologize or even acknowledge his mistake. To add insult to injury, he let out an exasperated sigh. "Mary, you're being too petty. Stop acting like a spoiled child, okay?" "Petty? Being upset about this makes me spoiled? It's something my mother made for me. It makes no sense for your sister to wear it before me." I'd reached my limit with his irresponsible comments. "I'm going to your parents' house tomorrow to get the wedding dress back from your sister." "Huh? Tomorrow is the day my sister's fiancé and his parents are coming to visit our parents' house. Don't interrupt them." "Interrupt? You've got some nerve. Let me be clear. No matter what anyone says, I have no intention of letting your sister wear that dress." The next day, I took a day off work to see my sister-in-law. When I arrived at my in-laws' house, I could hear lively voices from the open front door. As I secretly stepped in and listened, I heard a man's voice. "Wow, you made this dress yourself? That's amazing, Cynthia." Cynthia, my sister-in-law, responded in a humble tone. "Oh, it's nothing like that." She was flaunting my mother's handcrafted wedding dress to her fiancé and his parents. It took me quite some time, but I really wanted to bring my dream dress to life and have a good wedding, so I ended up making it myself. At that moment, something inside me crumbled. Her dream dress? What a joke. That was something my mother made with love just for me. Before I even realized it, I was already walking towards them. I walked straight through the entrance and seized the wedding dress from my sister-in-law. "This is mine," I shouted in front of everyone. Everyone present looked at me with surprised expressions. Whoa, Mary, what's happening all of a sudden?" my father-in-law asked, flustered. Ignoring him, I stared sternly at my sister-in-law and revealed the truth to everyone. "This dress is something my mother made for me. Your daughter stole it from my room without my permission." "What?" Everyone present was taken aback, their eyes wide with shock, except for my sister-in-law, who turned pale. "Hey, Cynthia, don't tell me that's true," her fiancé questioned. "No, it's not like that. This is really something I made by myself." Cynthia desperately tried to resist. Realizing the talk was going nowhere, I decided to question her. "Why don't you try it on then? Since my mother made it to fit my size, I don't think it will fit you." My sister-in-law was taller and more toned than I was. There was no way she could pull off this dress, which was made to fit my petite frame. "Hey, what are you doing?" Finally, my husband appeared. My sister-in-law must have called him. His face was beet red with anger. "Mary, what the heck are you doing? Are you trying to ruin my sister's wedding?" "What are you talking about? If anything, I'm the one who's about to have their wedding ruined," I retorted. "We canceled our wedding, so give that dress to my sister." "Huh? Cancel?" "That's right, we canceled it. My sister said she was strapped for cash, so we gave her the $50,000 we saved for our wedding as a gift. Since we aren't holding the wedding anymore, we don't need that dress, right?" "You let someone borrow my dress without asking. then canceled our wedding and gave away the $50,000 we saved up. Are you out of your mind? To him, our marriage was just something of little importance. I could feel myself falling out of love with my husband. As I fell silent, my husband, misunderstanding that he'd won the argument, opened his mouth again. Now you give that dress back to my sister right away. You have no objections about the cancellation, do you? Fine. Let's get a divorce then. Huh. Did you hear me? I said divorce. I don't want to be with someone like you who can trample on people's feelings without a second thought. Hey, wait a minute. Why do we have to get a divorce? That's ridiculous, isn't it? My husband started panicking. Any sane person would have seen this coming. He's just insane. Well, that settles it, I said as I tried to leave the place holding the dress. Hold on a minute. My sister-in-law grabbed the end of the dress with all her might. The dress tore in the process, becoming a pitiful sight. Looking at it, my sister-in-law and husband burst out laughing as if they couldn't contain themselves. Served you right. This is what happens when you mess with my sister. Yeah, really? If you just quietly lent me the dress, none of this would have happened. You brought this upon yourself, Mary. Tears welled up in my eyes, mixed with anger. My wedding being canceled was fine, but I wanted to keep this dress safe with me for my entire life, and now because of these worthless people, just then, my sister-in-law's fiancé stood up and slowly muttered, "Guess we're done too, huh?" Everyone was taken aback. Wait, you're joking, right? You're calling off our engagement? Why? In response to my sister-in-law's plea, her fiancé glared at her with a fierce look. Why? It's obvious, isn't it? There's no way I could marry someone who can do nasty things like this with no hesitation. No way. Even his parents seemed to feel the same way, showing quiet anger towards my sister-in-law's actions. Well, no more talk of marriage then. Her fiancé and his parents were about to leave. Just then, my sister-in-law burst in, frantically yelling, "Wait a minute. It's absurd to call off the engagement over something like this, right? Mom and Dad, you guys think so too, don't you?" Despite her pleas to her parents, it was too late. "Wait, Dad, Mom, why are you glaring at me?" Her father then shouted at her with full force, "Get out, you disgrace." Even my usually strong-willed sister-in-law started sobbing due to this overwhelming force. "You guys are so cruel. This is too much. Stop crying. I don't remember raising a jackass like you. I'm not claiming someone who can be this dismissive of others' feelings as our daughter." But, upon seeing his sister crumbling in tears, my husband stepped in to intervene. "Dad, Mom, calm down. You don't have to blame my sister this much." "You too, Thomas? What? You're no better. How dare you disregard Mary's feelings? Leave this house with Cynthia, you foolish son." Probably never anticipating that he too would be disowned, my husband stood there, mouth agape. Then my mother-in-law came over to me, bowing her head in apology. "I'm so sorry, Mary. We were told that the dress was handmade by our daughter, and we just believed it. No, it's okay, but I can't continue living with Thomas anymore." "That's okay. It's our daughter's fault. You go ahead and live your life without worrying about it." Her words really hit home. My in-laws had always been very kind to me, so I felt a pang of guilt that things had come down to this, but I couldn't stay with Thomas anymore. "Mary, I'm sorry. I really am. We'll have a proper wedding. Just don't file for divorce yet." My husband quickly changed his tune the moment he was disowned by his parents. There was absolutely no chance of me getting back together with such a spineless man. "I will live my own life. I can live a happy life without you." Hearing this, my husband collapsed to his knees. After expressing my gratitude to my in-laws, I left their house. I packed my bags and headed to my aunt's house, where she was greatly surprised. However, in the end, she respected my feelings and welcomed me. As for that torn dress, my aunt mended the torn parts and my mother's dress regained its shine. Afterward, I asked for alimony from my ex-husband, and we divorced. He had been secretly handing the wedding funds to my sister-in-law, so I was able to get a little more alimony. It seems that my husband and sister-in-law have been disowned by their parents and are now living together in a house we once shared. My sister-in-law, who had intended to become a housewife after marriage, had already quit her job and was now unemployed. Now my husband was single-handedly covering both of their living expenses. Next time, if I ever get another opportunity to marry someone, I want to make sure to thoroughly assess my partner. Then I will have a wonderful wedding, of course, wearing my mother's handmade wedding dress. You're jetting off abroad for a vacation and you call yourself a wife. You must be joking. But it's not a vacation. I'm attending a wedding ceremony. Shut up. You're married. You shouldn't leave the house. Do you want a divorce? The person relentlessly railing at me is none other than my husband. Since when did my gentleman turn into a guy like this? Being restricted from attending my best friend's wedding feels like being a slave. With a life like this, I had reached my limit. Look forward to it, okay? I'll send you straight to hell in no time. My name is Emily, and I'm 29. I leveraged my experience working part-time in a clothing store during my student days and became an independent entrepreneur 2 years ago. I opened an online boutique that sells clothes and accessories. Shortly before starting my own line, I married my boyfriend, Nick. It was thanks to him that I was able to start my own business. In the beginning, I struggled to get my business on track and fell down many times. Nevertheless, I managed to overcome it all thanks to Nick. Every time I faced a challenge, he would always say with a smile, "Emily, you'll be fine. Even if things are hard now, there will surely come a time when you'll succeed." I hope so, but if things don't get better, I will even be a burden to you, Nick. Don't worry about it. I want to support you, Emily, and I want to be there for you. But I would earn better if I got employed like I used to. You always said you wanted your own shop, Emily, didn't you? That dream has come true now. I'm here right by your side, so let's try a little harder together. Yeah, you're right. Thanks, Nick. I'll do my best. With the support of my husband, I decided to continue running my shop. I took full advantage of social media for marketing to get more exposure online. Thanks to that, I managed to significantly increase the number of customers. My target base is of a wide age range, so I have a large number of users. Everything is done online, so I don't have to pay rent or labor costs. Above all, I can do it alongside housework at home, so I can continue working without feeling overwhelmed. Things are stable now, and I earn a decent income. Although my business took off, there was one thing bothering me. It was that my husband was becoming more and more indifferent towards me day by day. As my business did better, I felt his words and actions becoming colder. I think it all started over something simple. A few months ago, the sales from the previous month had finally reached my target. I was so happy, and at the same time, my feeling of gratitude for my husband grew even deeper. That night, I immediately brought up the news to my husband, who had just returned from work. "Nick, listen. Emily, what's the matter? You seem in such a hurry." I finally did it. I hit my sales target for last month. You set your goal pretty high, didn't you? Yes, we've been pretty close for a while, but I finally hit the target last month. Thanks to you for supporting me. Thank you. Ah, good for you. I'm tired today. I'm going to take a shower and go to bed. After leaving his bag on the sofa and leaving the living room, my husband went to sleep without even eating the dinner I had prepared. What happened? He'd been so supportive, so I thought he'd be thrilled, but his reaction was lukewarm at best. Was he just really tired? I had expected us to celebrate together, so my husband's response came as a surprise. That said, there's no way I could force my tired husband to be happy. From then on, his demeanor towards me gradually grew colder each day. At first, I thought it was just because he was tired or not in the mood, but as this went on for weeks, even I started to feel uncomfortable. Before I knew it, he started looking down on me at every opportunity. Whenever I was on my computer, he'd stand behind me, sneering while peeking at the screen. What? Checking your sales? Trying to brag or something? What are you talking about? I have no such intentions, Nick. You peeked at the screen yourself. Huh. What kind of wife stays on her laptop when her husband's home? What are you trying to show off, saying I'm so busy with work or something? It's not like that. You've been so cold to me lately, Nick. Did I do something wrong? Despite being shocked by my husband's cold attitude, I still asked him about his true feelings. Then he sighed with an air of annoyance and blurted out, "Phew, it's exhausting. I come home tired from work, and why do I have to deal with someone so emotional?" Emotional? Why do you always speak like that? I just wanted to share some good news with you because I've been trying hard, and you've always supported me. That's what pisses me off about you. I couldn't care less about your sales. Instead of getting excited about such things, try improving your housekeeping skills a bit. Hey, there's no need to talk like that. What I'm saying is right, isn't it? Quit showing off how busy you are with work. Do it again, and I'm out of here. Got it? Being told such things by my beloved husband, my mind was in turmoil for a moment, my heart filled with emptiness, and before I knew it, a tear was trickling down my cheek. Instead of apologizing, he had a sneering smile on his face, a demonic smile I had never seen before. I was taken aback by my husband, who could show such an expression without hesitation. From that day on, his attitude only worsened. I was no longer allowed to speak freely as I used to, and I always had to walk on eggshells around him. Then, one day, I found a wedding invitation for my best friend in our mailbox. I went to middle school and high school with Elena, and we've always been close. We kept in touch regularly even after we became adults. When she got married, I remember being excited as if I were the one who got married. Now she's abroad with her husband, and the invitation said the ceremony would take place overseas. I've been stressed about my husband, so this was great news to me. It felt like a ray of light drew into my oppressive daily life. I was thinking of when to tell my husband about this. Before I could bring it up, my husband found the invitation on the table. "Hey, what's this?" He read through the invitation and approached me with a clearly sour expression. "What do you mean? It's clearly a wedding invitation. It's from my best friend, Elena. But this is taking place abroad. You're not going, right?" "Huh. Of course I'm going." As I said that, my husband slammed his hand on the table with a devilish look on his face. He let out a deep voice I'd never heard before. "You've got to be kidding me. While I'm working my butt off day in, day out, you're just lounging around at home on the computer, and you're planning on skipping housework again just because of a wedding." "No, you've got it wrong. That's not it. I just want to attend Elena's wedding." "Shut up. We're married. You shouldn't leave the house. Do you want to get a divorce?" Being so casually threatened with divorce, I froze on the spot. He continued his tirade mercilessly. "I feel bad for your best friend too. If you're only using her wedding as an excuse to leave home and not to celebrate her marriage." "What are you saying? It's my best friend's wedding. I'm attending only because I want to celebrate it. Just what's so hard to understand?" "Oh, you're so annoying. Quit being so cocky because your business took off. It's your attitude that ticks me off. When will you get it? Huh?" My husband shouted at me, our noses nearly touching. Overcome with fear, my legs gave way beneath me. Seemingly amused by my reaction, he said, "Look, you should be grateful I married a woman like you. You were lucky your business took off, and it was only because of my support. Now shut up and just do as I say." With that, he shoved the wedding invitation into the trash can. The moment he did that, I felt my blood rush back into my body. At this point, I was so infuriated that it would have been an understatement to say that my blood was boiling. He had not only thrown away my dear friend's invitation, but also insulted my feelings. I was so bitter I realized I had unconsciously bitten my lip hard. Unforgivable. Who does he take me for? Just because he hates me doesn't mean he can do whatever he wants. I am not his slave, and being his wife does not make me his possession. If my days are going to continue like this, I might as well be the one to ruin it all. I don't care. I'm attending Elena's wedding no matter what. Without resisting, I bided my time until the wedding, carefully making preparations for my overseas trip so he wouldn't find out. On the day of departure, my silent obedience seemed to have paid off, and he had already forgotten about the wedding. Before leaving for work, he nagged at me as usual at the front door. "Don't skip your chores today. Make sure dinner is ready. Don't you ever go against me, okay?" "I know. Have a good day." "Phew, you got it easy, don't you? You get to lounge around at home every day. I wish we could switch places." "Yeah, I was the one who pushed you to have your own line. I wish you were more grateful. Maybe I'll cut back my contribution to the household expenses from next month. It doesn't make sense for me to be the only one struggling." Mumbling such things, my husband left the house. Suppressing the urge to talk back, I patiently waited until he was out of sight. Once I confirmed that Nick was on his way to the station, I immediately began my preparations. I grabbed the suitcase I had prepared in advance, called a cab, and headed for the airport. I then took a flight to meet Elena. When I arrived at the destination she had booked for me, my phone rang. It was my husband. He must have realized that I was gone immediately after returning from work. As soon as I picked up the call, he began to yell, "Hey Emily, where are you?" Without even having dinner ready, "I'm at Elena's wedding." "What a wedding? I told you not to go. You broke your promise." "I never said I wouldn't go, and I don't remember making such a promise." "Don't mess with me. I've disciplined you over and over not to leave home. You're my wife, after all. Disciplined? What are you talking about? That's just you forcing me to put up with your selfish expectations. Perhaps angered by my defiant attitude, he yelled. That's it. We're getting a divorce. Look, if you don't want that, come back home now. Got it. Without waiting for my response, he hung up the phone. No matter what he says, I don't care because my mind is already made up. After my best friend's wedding, I spent a full day sightseeing before returning to the States. I arrived home prepared to have a talk with my husband, but he was nowhere to be found. On the table was a divorce paper. He had already signed it, and that wasn't it. My computer for work was completely smashed. By leaving the divorce papers and breaking my computer, he was probably trying to get back at me. There was not a shred of love left for him and me. I signed the divorce papers on the table and packed my things into my suitcase again. I took the divorce papers and headed to my parents' house. On my way there, I stopped by the city hall and submitted my divorce papers. When I arrived at my parents' house, I told them everything that happened. My parents were surprised at first, but their faces hardened as they listened. If Nick were there, my father would have definitely punched him. As I was relaxing at my parents' house, which I hadn't visited for a long time, my phone rang. It was a call from my husband. I didn't expect him to call this soon. I answered the phone without flinching. Hello. It's been a while, Emily. You're back in the country, huh? I got back today. So what? You're cold, huh? Oh, maybe you were shocked that I filed for divorce, huh? Huh. My husband seemed to think I was grieving. He continued in a condescending tone, which was noticeable even over the phone. Relax, I'm not serious either. I just wanted you to reflect on yourself, so I gave you a little scare. Reflect on myself. What for? You went abroad without my permission and had the time of your life. Had the time of my life? I just attended Elena's wedding. You're still persistent. That's what I mean by having the time of your life, leaving your husband behind, abandoning your housework, and going on an overseas trip. You're disqualified as a wife, you little. Enough already. Who do you think you are? Just because we're married, just because you're my husband, you think you have the right to control everything I do. What, Emily? Enough is enough. In the end, you just can't stand that I'm successful at work, right? You don't like having a wife who earns more than you. You're such a deadbeat. It's pathetic to be jealous of your wife. If it bothers you, go ahead and make more than I do. Emily, did you just say that? I'm seriously gonna break up with you. Go ahead. In fact, we're already divorced. What? I filed for divorce. There's no way I can continue being married to a piece of trash like you. Just so you know, if you think you can break me with such threats, you got it wrong. I'm not gonna let you manipulate me. Don't ever show me that disgusting face of yours again, you jerk. He must have been shocked by my harsh words. He fell silent, so I said goodbye and hung up the phone. Afterward, I hired a lawyer and billed him for the desktop he destroyed. Moreover, the text and voicemail messages came in handy. His attempts to control my actions and his constant verbal abuse were proven, and I was able to collect damages. As a result, his savings dwindled and he was left in debt. His parents refused to help him, saying it was his own doing, and he ended up having to borrow money from loan sharks. Now he's stuck in a vicious cycle of borrowing to pay off debt, wandering in hell. He was never a high flyer, and I heard that he made mistake after mistake at work, eventually being sidelined. On the other hand, I've been living at my parents' home since the divorce. Thankfully, my current job doesn't tie me to a particular location. I can continue my peaceful life at home, and my parents are happy to have me stay with them. This lifestyle will likely continue for a while. Marriage isn't the only way to happiness. The most important thing is to have a family that cares for you. I've come to realize this once again. Can you believe she's doing nothing even though she's in her last month of pregnancy? What kind of parenting did you do? When I opened the front door, there stood my daughter Jessica and her husband Thomas. Thomas scowled at me, complaining about dust accumulating under the table and a dirty bathroom floor. He seemed to think my daughter's inability to clean meant I had failed as a parent. It's tough for her to bend down with that belly. If he's that concerned, why doesn't he clean it himself? Before I could say anything, Thomas reached for the door. I can't be bothered with someone who can't even keep house. I'm leaving her, he said. I'm Rebecca, and I turned 54 this year. I work as an employee for a major corporation. After losing my husband early, it's been just me and my only daughter, Jessica. Raising Jessica alone wasn't easy, but her smiles always made the fatigue disappear. Jessica grew into a kind and thoughtful young woman, blessed with good friends. However, she was clueless in romantic relationships and struggled to find a boyfriend. I was hoping she'd meet someone in high school, but she didn't even have a boyfriend in college. After graduating, she started working as an office employee for a food manufacturer. There were no rumors about her dating life. When I'm gone, Jessica would be all alone. I started to worry, considering introducing her to someone when she shyly informed me she was dating a man she met through a friend. Their relationship progressed smoothly, and about 2 years in, they announced their engagement. I felt relieved. It's bittersweet to see your only child move out, but the reassurance of her having a family outweighed that. The couple lives about an hour's drive from my house. Thomas is 4 years older than Jessica and a very ambitious man. Thomas often works late or goes out for drinks, citing his career ambitions, leaving all household chores to Jessica. I thought they should share responsibilities, but I refrained from interfering in their lives. About 6 months after their wedding, Jessica invited me to lunch to announce she was expecting. Jessica, who didn't have siblings, always liked children. She used to tell me she wished for a little sister or brother, something I couldn't provide as I had no plans to remarry. Jessica, who had always wanted kids even after getting married, was lovingly speaking to her still flat belly, rubbing it gently as if she couldn't wait to meet her unborn child. Seeing her like this filled me with joy. "If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to call me," I said as we parted ways. Since Jessica continued working during her pregnancy, I made it a point to check in on her regularly to see how she was doing. Around the time she entered her second trimester, I was assigned a big project at work that would result in frequent travel. When I told Jessica about this, she was thrilled for me and told me to focus on my work, assuring me she would be fine. I asked Thomas multiple times to look out for Jessica while I dove into my work. It should be close to Jessica's final month of pregnancy by now. As the project was winding down and work was settling, I called to discuss plans for after the baby arrives. To my surprise, it was Thomas who answered the phone. Hey Rebecca. Good timing. Jessica's pretty useless and in the way, so I'm going to bring her over to your place." "What? What do you mean?" Before I could get an answer, he hung up. An hour later, my doorbell rang. Opening the door, I found a disheveled Jessica standing there next to Thomas. Jessica. I was shocked at how much my daughter had changed. She didn't even have the strength to smile. Dark circles under her eyes, her hair, nails, and skin all dry. She looked nothing like a woman in her 20s. Her fingers were cracked and bleeding. Her expression was dark, her gaze fixed on a single point. How could she deteriorate so much in just a few months? I let them in and had them sit on the couch. Since Jessica was in no state to speak, I demanded an explanation from Thomas. "Thomas, why is Jessica like this?" Without a hint of embarrassment, Thomas looked surprised and said, "Wait, are you blaming me? She's the one who slowed down because of her big belly. You know housework is a woman's job, and she even lied about feeling sick to get out of it." I was incredulous. "You were making a morning sick Jessica do all the chores." "Morning sickness isn't a disease, you know. She even asked me to help with the chores while I'd been working all day. Anyhow, she's in the way and not doing her chores, so please take care of her until she gives birth." That's when I realized this man had no understanding of pregnancy or fatherhood. I couldn't leave my precious daughter in his care. "I'll take her in." "I can't trust you to care for her," I told Thomas. He retorted, "Look, if your daughter is such a mess, it's because you failed to raise her properly. With no father around, she doesn't even know how to treat her husband. I'm the one suffering here. Once the baby's born, come pick it up. Meanwhile, please re-educate your daughter, Rebecca." Before Thomas left, he stated he wanted me to fix my daughter's upbringing by the time the baby came. Then he just left Jessica and walked away. The nerve of that man. I deeply regretted letting Jessica marry him. Jessica sat there, looking down like a doll. First, I needed to make her feel secure, so I went to the fridge, poured milk into Jessica's favorite cup with a bit of sugar, and warmed it up in the microwave. "Be careful, it's hot," I told her as I handed it over. Upon sipping the warm milk, Jessica broke into sobs, tears flowing freely. I sat next to her, rubbed her back, and listened to her story. Thomas was ambitious and continued to attend work parties even after Jessica became pregnant, leaving her alone. Whenever she needed something, he wouldn't lift a finger to help. He even demanded she do housework when she was feeling ill from the pregnancy. Hey, get up, you've been lounging around. You haven't done the dishes or laundry. Sometimes he would even bring home colleagues after a night of drinking and force her to cook and clean for them. I clenched my fists, furious at how my pregnant daughter was being treated like a servant. Jessica told me she didn't want to jeopardize my career, so she endured it. She even asked doctors to explain to Thomas about the physical changes in pregnancy, but it was all in vain. Her in-laws lived far away, only accessible by flight, so she couldn't rely on them either. She had always put others before herself. I hugged her and said, "From now on, it's okay to prioritize yourself, Jessica. If you're struggling, don't hesitate to ask for help. I'm sorry for not realizing sooner." With that, I gently stroked her head. "Mom, thank you," she said, and then she broke into childlike sobs. A few days after Jessica came to stay, her emotional state became increasingly unstable as her due date approached. When I returned from work, the house was clean even though I told her to rest. Jessica would continue doing chores. She'd even attempt to move heavy mattresses or change burnt-out light bulbs. At times, she tried to pack her bags and go home, fearing her husband's wrath. I thought she might need counseling, so I went to our neighbor, who used to be a therapist, and asked for a recommended clinic. "Lisa, hello, do you have a moment? I need to talk about my daughter." Welcoming me into her home, Lisa listened to my story. I shared Jessica's situation with Lisa and her husband, Kevin, and received recommendations for a good clinic. Jessica had been feeling off too, so she started visiting the hospital. Lisa and her husband were concerned about Jessica, so when I was at work, Lisa would stop by to check on her. Thankfully, Jessica started to recover and smiled more like she used to. When the due date came, I took Jessica to the hospital as her contractions began. I rubbed her back and wiped her sweat, encouraging her all the way. As the contractions grew closer, I watched Jessica walk into the delivery room. I sat in a chair, restless and eager, until I heard the baby's cries. A nurse informed me that both mother and child were healthy, a relief to hear. When I went to see them, Jessica was holding our sleeping baby in her arms. I was angry at Thomas, but I still let him know that a healthy baby girl had been born. Immediately entering the hospital room and seeing his newborn, Thomas blurted out, "Yuck, babies look like monkeys, not cute at all." "Jessica, you're not even wearing makeup and just lying in bed. You're so lazy. Put some effort into how you look. You're a woman." Just as I was about to return, the nurses and doctors who heard him lost their temper. They surrounded Thomas, shouting, "Are you even a husband? Your wife just gave birth, risking her life, and she's exhausted. Can't you say something nice?" But Thomas, visibly irritated, shot back, "Shut up. My mom was working even right after giving birth. This is clearly laziness. I'd never heard of a woman working immediately after childbirth, and there's no way he could remember that. Something must have twisted his memory. It makes sense he wouldn't know, given he's never shown interest in pregnancy or childbirth." Thomas stormed out and didn't even show up on Jessica's discharge day. No signs of him coming to pick her up. Concerned about sending Jessica back to him, I told her she could stay with me, but Jessica wanted to go home, saying it was unfair to the child to grow up without a father. Reluctantly, I called Thomas to see if he would pick her up. He replied, "I'm busy with work, so please take care of things there. I don't want to lose sleep because of a crying baby." He hung up right after that. I brought Jessica home, suggesting she stay until she got used to parenting. Thomas hadn't bought any baby essentials, so we went shopping to set up a nurturing environment. Thomas hadn't even thought about a name because he was so focused on his work, so Jessica and I chose one. We named the baby Sarah. Our neighbors, Lisa and her husband, knew the situation and helped with childcare, so Sarah grew up well. About 3 months after Sarah's birth, Thomas showed up without any notice to pick up Jessica and Sarah. "Hey, I'm here to pick you up." "Hurry up, you're always so slow," Thomas yelled from the front door. By this time, Jessica's emotional instability after childbirth had temporarily settled, and she fully understood how terrible Thomas was. Jessica had made up her mind to divorce and had no intention of going back to him. From behind the door, she said, "I won't be controlled by you anymore, and I'm not coming back home. I'll mail you the divorce papers, so sign them." Thomas yelled back, "Are you kidding me? In today's world, a man with a wife and kids is more likely to succeed. What's the point of being married to you if we divorce? I'm never getting divorced." My daughter was furious, thinking that her husband had married and had a child just for the sake of career advancement. But before I could yell back, the door next door opened. Hearing Thomas's loud voice, our neighbors Lisa and her husband, Kevin, stepped out of their home. Thomas, who glanced at Lisa, paled instantly when her husband, Kevin, appeared. "Boss, what are you doing here?" Stunned, Thomas watched Lisa and Kevin approach. It turns out Kevin was Thomas's supervisor. Kevin, also surprised, said, "So you're Jessica's husband? To think a terrible man like you, who neglected his child for 3 months, turns out to be you. You lack empathy, and I can't trust my team to someone like you. I'll let the CEO know as well. But consider your promotion canceled," Kevin sternly whispered to Thomas. "Please, Kevin, reconsider," Thomas pleaded, clinging to Kevin with tears in his eyes. "You have nothing more to say to me. You don't even want to listen. You only ever cared about your work." Kevin cut him off, not allowing any further comments. "What was all my hard work for?" Thomas dropped to his knees, deflated. Kevin is known in the neighborhood and at work as a family man, and he couldn't tolerate Thomas treating his family like tools. Apparently, Thomas had been putting on a good face at work for the sake of a promotion. Thomas went home quietly that day, but once at the office, he pestered colleagues and subordinates, saying, "Hey, you ate at my place, right? Could you put in a good word for me with the boss for a promotion?" When no one complied, he went straight to the CEO. "Sir, I've worked hard for this company every day. My sales numbers are consistently high. Please approve my promotion." "I've heard from your boss," said the CEO. "Your performance numbers might look good, but you've been using aggressive tactics to win contracts. Just raising your own numbers isn't enough. A deal that tarnishes the company's image is negative, even if it's successful. If you can't consider that, you can't move up. I have no more expectations for you." Thomas left the CEO's office, his face pale with dejection. The CEO of Thomas's company is occasionally on TV and is well known as a man of integrity. He made his judgment based on more than just the boss's reports. Thomas probably got the message after that. Thomas lost his motivation for work. His constant mistakes became a burden, and he was transferred to a regional department with hardly any work. At least he wasn't fired. After his transfer was settled, Thomas repeatedly came to our house, saying, "Jessica, it was my fault. I want another chance. I want to see Sarah. I'm her father, right?" Both Jessica and I ignored Thomas. But when he became too persistent, Kevin warned him that he would report him to the CEO, which would get him fired. After that, we didn't see him anymore. It must have been shallow affection after all. When Kevin found out that Jessica was having trouble getting her divorce accepted, he referred her to a top-notch attorney. The divorce was finalized smoothly, and she was even able to claim compensation for emotional distress. Thomas got transferred and seemed to be living a quiet, lonely life in a rural area. I heard this from Kevin. He said the last time Thomas came into the office, he looked unrecognizable. His shirt and suit were wrinkled, he'd grown a beard, and he had lost a lot of weight. In the small town Thomas moved to, you can't easily visit a dry cleaner or a convenience store without a car. Whether he's trying to save on gas or just can't be bothered, if he doesn't use these services, he'll have to fend for himself. Thomas never lifted a finger to help with housework, always saying it was a woman's work, so he probably doesn't know how to do anything for himself. He should regret treating Jessica like a servant when he's there all alone. Maybe Thomas thinks he has lost everything since the divorce and losing custody. He even started to forget the child support payments he promised to make to Sarah. If Jessica calls to remind him, he'd apparently tells her how hard his life is, almost in tears. I advised Jessica to inform her lawyer, and as soon as she requested the child support through legal channels, it got paid. So far, we've heard nothing from Thomas about wanting to see Sarah. If Sarah wants to, we'll reach out, but Jessica and I agreed that we would pour lots of love into raising her into a fine adult, even without a father around. My name is Sheila, and I'm 36, working part-time at a supermarket while raising 2 daughters, a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old. We live as a family of 4 with my husband Tommy. Life was comfortable and happy, and I genuinely believed our peaceful days would continue as I watched my lovely daughters grow. One evening after dinner, once the kids were in bed, Tommy, with a drink in hand and a serious look, began to speak. Got a call today. Looks like Aaron's getting a divorce. I was taken aback by the sudden news. Wait, Aaron's divorcing. Erin is Tommy's younger sister. I recall she got married about 7 years ago and has a 5-year-old child. That's a young kid. Is she going to be a single mom? Seems like it. Apparently, her husband had some hidden debts, and she decided to divorce him quickly. That's tough. Yeah, and she's planning to move nearby next month. She'll probably need some help, so I was hoping we could be there for her. Without hesitation, I nodded in agreement. Divorce is hard enough, let alone raising a child alone. Having raised kids myself, I deeply understood the challenges. I genuinely wanted to help in any way I could. Let Erin know she can reach out anytime she needs something. Thanks, we should support Erin from now on. Little did I know that this casual promise would lead to unexpected events. The following month, Erin and her son, Dick, moved into an apartment just a 5-minute walk from our place. On the day they moved in, Tommy and I invited them over for a small housewarming celebration. Our eldest, Becca, and our younger daughter, Ariana, played happily with Dick. Erin, you've been through a lot, I said. Erin replied, chugging her beer. Honestly, marriage isn't worth it. If it weren't for Dick, I wouldn't have married that awful man. I regret it. I was a bit shocked she'd say that in front of Dick, but figured the stress and alcohol played a part. Erin always spoke her mind. I remember when I first met Tommy's family, she bluntly said, "Really, Tommy, he chose someone so plain. Did you settle?" I froze in shock when she said this to my face, but back then Tommy's dad scolded her for her words. "Erin, if you ever need anything, just tell me," Tommy confidently told her. "Thanks, I knew moving close to you was the right choice. I thought about going back home, but Dad can be too strict, and I didn't want to feel suffocated." I remembered that Erin and Tommy's dad didn't get along well. It wasn't hatred, but more of Erin feeling overwhelmed by his strictness. "If you ever need anything, just call. We'll be there in a heartbeat," Tommy assured. I added, "Yes, please let us know if you need help." But deep down, I felt a twinge of unease. I had this nagging feeling that we might be taken advantage of, and my intuition wasn't wrong. The day after Erin moved in, as I was preparing dinner, the doorbell rang. "Becca, can you get the door? I'm in the middle of something," I asked my eldest, who was watching TV. "Mom, it's Aunt Erin and Dick," Becca informed me. I paused my cooking, wondering if something had happened. When I reached the door, Erin said, "Hey Sheila, I'm really short on cash right now. Can we join you for dinner?" Taken aback, I replied, "I'm sorry, but I wasn't prepared for extra guests tonight." "But you said we could come over any time we're in trouble." Erin looked at me with a slightly annoyed expression. I did say she could come over, but not without a heads up. Just then, Tommy came home from work. Upon hearing the situation, Tommy said, "Erin's going through a lot. Let her have a good meal here." So I decided to order delivery for Erin and Dick. After dinner, they even took showers at our place before leaving. "Erin, we need some notice before you come over. Can you let us know in advance next time?" I asked as she was leaving. Before Erin could respond, Tommy interjected, "Hey, Sheila, Erin's struggling raising a child on her own. Don't be so cold." He then turned to Erin, "You don't have to worry about anything. You can always rely on us." "Thanks, Tommy. Sheila, I'll be counting on you a lot from now on." True to her word, Erin started coming over almost daily. She'd have dinner, take a shower, and leave. When I suggested she shower at her place, she'd say it saves on utilities. Considering her divorce was due to her husband's debts, maybe she's become overly frugal. But this was beyond common sense. I decided to discuss it with Tommy. Our daughters are getting affected by Erin's frequent visits. She leaves Dick with them and just watches TV. They can't even watch their shows because they're busy with Dick. I've told her multiple times to take care of her son, but she doesn't listen. Can you talk to her? She's struggling raising Dick alone. Let her relax here, Tommy said, turning away as if to end the conversation. In the first place, it's Tommy's fault that she's doing whatever she wants in our house. I too was raising kids, but Tommy only acknowledged Erin's struggles, taking my efforts for granted. Speaking of parenting, I'm raising kids every day too. It's just as tough for me, but Tommy only talks about her struggles and takes for granted what I, his wife, do. He doesn't seem to appreciate me. Honestly, Tommy frustrates me. When I suggested to Tommy that, considering our daughters, we limit Erin and her child's visits to just the weekends, Tommy reluctantly agreed, saying with a sour face, "You can be surprisingly unpleasant." Fine. But when she stopped coming over, Tommy started visiting her apartment almost daily. Almost every weekday, Tommy stayed at her place. Our daughters asked, "Isn't Dad coming home again today? Did you two have a fight?" It's strange for a dad not to come home 5 days a week without a work reason. I couldn't take it anymore and called Tommy's cell. "Where are you right now?" "I'm at Aaron's. I was just giving Dick a bath," Tommy said as if it was the most natural thing. Come to think of it, Tommy never bathed our daughters. I reached my limit and decided to have a serious talk with Tommy that weekend. "Our daughters are getting anxious with you only coming home on weekends. I don't want to create a rift between us, so please reduce your visits," I pleaded. "Fine, then you make meals for Aaron and Dick. Deliver 3 meals a day. Aaron is too busy to cook. Help her out." "Hold on, isn't Aaron unemployed?" "I can't imagine she's too busy to cook," I pushed back against Tommy's shocking suggestion. Tommy then said, "Aaron is still healing from her divorce. It's sad that you're cold to her too." My distrust of Tommy, who overly sides with his sister, grew. Delivering 3 meals a day is impossible. You might not realize it, but I wake up at 5 a.m. to handle house chores. If I have to prepare 3 meals for 2 people, I have to wake up 2 hours earlier. Just wake up at 3 a.m. then. What are you saying? Waking up at 5 a.m. and going to my part-time job is already tough. Don't act high and mighty over a part-time job. You probably don't work that hard. Stop joking. It's absolutely impossible. Maybe you're the one joking. Maybe we should divorce. I was shocked by Tommy's sudden mention of divorce. What do you mean by divorce? If you can't listen to me, then we should divorce. You said you wanted to help Aaron, but all you do is complain. That's cruel. That's my line. You're the one relying too much on wanting to help. There's a limit to taking advantage. Shouldn't you respect someone you're close to? That day, our conversation didn't resolve anything. The next day, Tommy declared to our daughters, "You two will support your aunt and Dick from now on. Your mom says she won't help because she's mean. But you two are different, right? Helping those in need is a given." Our daughters looked stunned by their father's outrageous statement. Becca and Ariana, "After school, go straight to your aunt's. Help with shopping and dinner. Don't come home until you finish helping." Got it. I couldn't believe it. Was Tommy planning to use our daughters since I refused? Our daughters responded, "Dad, you're being weird. We don't understand. Mom, we're leaving." Even they couldn't agree with their father's absurd statement. Tommy told me, "Tell the girls too. Since you won't help Aaron, it can't be helped." What does he mean by "it can't be helped"? My anger reached its peak, and I came up with a plan. That day, I quickly changed my part-time job shift and visited Tommy's parents' home. "Oh, Sheila, what brings you here so suddenly? Sorry to bother you on your day off, father-in-law." I took a deep breath to calm myself, but tears started to flow. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" "Yes, something very hurtful and sad." I told father-in-law everything. Even though Aaron doesn't seem to think highly of father-in-law, I've always liked him because beneath his strict demeanor, he's genuinely kind. I thought he would understand, which is why I visited today. Father-in-law listened quietly to my entire story. "So that's what happened. I'm sorry for my foolish daughter's actions," he said, clearly angered on my behalf. "We can't let this continue. Leave it to me. I'll set them straight." His reassuring words brought a smile to my face. "You finally smiled," father-in-law said, looking at me kindly. "You looked so distressed when you arrived. I was worried. Now let's go." With renewed determination, I stood up. "Aaron, we're coming in." Father-in-law and I visited Aaron's apartment. "Oh, Dad, why are you here all of a sudden?" "What do you mean by why? And what's with this messy room? What do you do all day?" The room was a mess with trash everywhere. The bed was unmade, and there was a terrible smell, probably from food waste, in the sink. I wondered if she and Dick lived like this, but he wasn't there. "Where's Dick?" Father-in-law immediately asked on my behalf. Oh, I left him at a child care center. A child care center? Since when and which one? Getting a spot in a local child care center is competitive. I had a hard time enrolling my daughters. Plus, Tommy never mentioned this. Something seemed off. That's none of your business, Aaron replied, sounding flustered. Of course it's our business. Are you really sending him to a child care center? Father-in-law pressed her with a sharp gaze. Cornered, Aaron finally admitted. I leave him with a neighbor downstairs during the day. You know this neighbor? No, but they have a 4-year-old, so I thought it was okay. If there was a scale for audacity, she'd score high. You fool, go get Dick right now. Father-in-law shouted, and she hurriedly left to bring back Dick. What were you thinking? You've caused Sheila so much trouble. Explain yourself. Well, Tommy said I could use Sheila however I wanted. He said she'd do anything he asked, she said without any remorse. Wait, is that true? Did Tommy really say I could be used like that? Yes, he said you're like his servant. He even said to use your daughters if needed. I can't believe that man, to think he viewed his wife and daughters in such a way. Father-in-law was equally shocked. Thankfully, Aaron's loose lips revealed the truth. While she had her issues, it was clear Tommy was the main problem. I decided I would never forgive Tommy. Father-in-law and I waited for Tommy at Aaron's apartment. Aaron, I'm home. Tommy, returning with high spirits, froze upon seeing father-in-law sitting silently. Dad, why are you here? We've been waiting. Sit down. Father-in-law pointed to the sofa in front of him. Why the sudden visit? You startled me. Tommy tried to brush it off with a smirk. Just sit down. With a stern command, Tommy quickly sat up straight. You've been doing whatever you please, haven't you? Tommy glared at me upon hearing father-in-law's words. You ratted me out to Dad. Shut up. Both you and Aaron are out of line. But Tommy and his sister were clearly intimidated by their father. It was evident they were genuinely afraid of him. Sheila, what do you want to do moving forward? Father-in-law asked me calmly. I had already made up my mind. Actually, the girls are currently at my parents' house. Why would you do that without discussing it with me? Tommy demanded. I don't want to hear that from you. I was terrified of how you'd use our daughters. I felt I had to protect them. So I've decided we should separate for a while. Why the sudden decision to separate? Don't be ridiculous. It's not sudden. You've barely been home on weekends. Weren't you the one who first mentioned divorce? That was just a joke. I won't accept a separation, Tommy said adamantly. Then father-in-law spoke up. There's a process called mediation divorce. He explained the legal proceedings of divorce, the benefits of hiring a lawyer, and how to gather evidence to strengthen my case. It turns out father-in-law is a practicing attorney. Now I understand why Tommy and Aaron fear him. They know how father-in-law champions those facing injustices. Regardless of being his children, father-in-law would uphold justice without bias. It's puzzling how such a straightforward man could have such selfish children. I'm on Sheila's side. What's right should prevail. Father-in-law's words warmed my heart. After a 3-month separation, Tommy and I divorced. I thought it would lead to mediation, but Tommy agreed after father-in-law's persuasion. I don't know what was discussed, but Tommy's words, I don't want to go against Dad, hinted at intense pressure. Tommy probably realized he stood no chance against father-in-law, a skilled attorney. It was a clear victory for father-in-law. I told Tommy, how does it feel to be bitten by your own dog? He just looked down, saying nothing. He probably always looked down on me. It's a bit sad to think about. After the divorce, Aaron lost the financial support she received from father-in-law. You can't always rely on others. If you need money, work for it. When you think of someone else, you can overcome any hardship. Father-in-law's words inspired her. Aaron started working part-time and is now raising Dick with determination. After the divorce, I changed jobs from part-time to full-time employment. I wanted to provide a better life for my daughters. It was challenging to find full-time employment initially, but that frustration drove me to improve my skills. I now see my divorce from Tommy as a blessing in disguise. I still have a good relationship with father-in-law. My daughters adore their grandfather, sharing their achievements and gifting him with things like music boxes they made at school. Father-in-law is irreplaceable to me. I cherish our relationship and feel fortunate to have such a respectable father-in-law by my side. I hope to be as admirable to my daughters as father-in-law is to me as I continue my journey in life. My name is Naomi, a 28-year-old banker. It has been 3 years since I married Tony, the second son of the well-known classic hotel in this area. People often tease me saying, "So you're going to be a hotel manager," but the hotel is managed by my in-laws. The eldest son and his wife are the successor owners and the front office managers, with Tommy supporting them as part of the support staff. Encouraged by my husband Tommy and my in-laws, I've continued working at the bank where I was employed before our marriage. My sister-in-law even jokes that I should handle the accounting when it's our turn to take over, so I'm currently studying bookkeeping to be of help in the future. I seldom get to visit my in-laws' hotel, which is quite exclusive. Before we got married, as a sign of good relations, my family was invited to stay at the hotel. My family is pretty ordinary, and our family trips mostly consisted of camping when I was little. My parents and grandparents, who always wanted to stay at this hotel, were nervous about not making any mistakes, given that we were now related to the owners. However, when we actually stayed, the hospitality was first class. The food was delicious, and the staff, including my in-laws, bid us farewell. It was a perfect experience with no discomfort at all, and we were deeply moved. It was my first time actually staying there, and I gained a new appreciation for Tommy and my in-laws, who created such a wonderful place. It made me realize the responsibility of being a wife of someone from such an incredible family, and I resolved to be a wife who wouldn't embarrass them. Amidst all this, my brother Tom got a bit carried away with the luxury. Tom, with his strong ambition and penchant for showing off, seemed thrilled at the prospect of being distantly related to the owners of a famous hotel. It appears he took my in-laws' casual invitation to visit any time literally and got carried away. After my marriage, we received another invitation when the hotel received its most popular and highest grade steak. Unlike my parents, who remained apologetic as before, Tom began demanding excessive services. He started with requesting room upgrades, then arbitrarily added dishes to his meals, and freely requested various drinks. When the staff hesitated over his unexpected requests, he said, "I'm a relative of the hotel's owners. Don't you recognize this person?" and pointed at me. The staff had no reason to know me as I'm not involved in the hotel's management yet. "Stop it, Tom. You're embarrassing me." I tried to stop him, but he insisted on calling Tommy. Feeling guilty about causing a scene, I reluctantly called Tommy, who agreed to accommodate Tom's requests. I was mortified, thinking how my family must seem so rude to the staff despite being guests. "I wish I could disappear," was all I thought. My parents felt the same, saying if we're invited again, we should decline out of respect. "We'll apologize and express our gratitude to Tony's parents, and please do the same from your side," Mom said to me. Despite my parents doing nothing wrong, it was all because of Tom getting carried away. I apologized profusely to Tommy, but he just laughed it off. My in-laws also told me not to worry about it and were actually saddened to hear that my parents now felt hesitant to stay at the hotel. Such generous in-laws. However, Tom, emboldened by having his unreasonable requests fulfilled, became even more presumptuous. A year after my marriage, Tom got married and demanded hotel stay vouchers as wedding gifts. I refused these requests. Then he and his wife began showing up unannounced for stays every long weekend. Tom would drive up to the grand entrance in a compact car, drop Tony's name, claim to be a relative, and leave his car there. This was in stark contrast to other guests, who, even with luxury cars, would park in the parking lot and walk to the entrance. Despite many instances of being fully booked during long weekends, he would say, "I'm family. How could I not get a room? Is this hotel so poor that it can't accommodate important guests?" Tony and my in-laws would step in, finding him a room or an alternative. Furthermore, Tom insisted on having the spa reserved exclusively for him and his wife, arguing that they wanted to use it together. This was granted, even though it was during a time with fewer guests, just for his convenience. This led to complaints from other guests, leaving Tony scrambling to handle the situation. Tom would shamelessly enjoy meals, summon the chef to demand off-menu items with expensive ingredients, and get rowdy while drunk, ruining the tranquil atmosphere of the luxury hotel. Yet, I'm so grateful to Tommy and my in-laws for dealing with Tom's antics every time. I often found out about his visits after the fact and, in a panic, called Tom. But he just brushed me off, saying, "Don't sweat the small stuff." It's great that my sister married into such a good family. Such ridiculous demands were made, and he wouldn't listen to reason. Tom and his wife's stays during the busy holiday periods were quite noticeable due to their crude behavior. Despite the cold stares from others, they didn't tone down their actions, leading to negative feedback in surveys and website reviews. One bad review seemed to lead to more, which adversely affected the hotel's rating. Longtime regular customers started looking at us skeptically, wondering if we were favoring family, and began distancing themselves. Seeing Tony and my father-in-law William struggling with the situation made me feel guilty for not being able to stop Tom. When he calls asking for a reservation, it's easy to say no, but when they show up unannounced, we're stuck. During another holiday, Tom and his wife came again. Despite the lower ratings, it's still a well-known hotel, and during the holidays, it was as busy as ever, fully booked with no vacancies available. We had no choice but to offer Tom and his wife one of the old rooms that we don't usually use. Unsatisfied, Tom shockingly wrote a review on the website, complaining that despite being a regular, he was made to stay in an old, dark, and dirty room that was not usually used. I came here looking forward to a relaxing stay, but the room was dusty and the worst. The service was bad, and the food wasn't good either. It's all appearances. The hotel has grown arrogant due to its long-standing prestige, not valuing its customers. He wrote all these complaints in a scathing review. I was shaking with anger. They had the audacity to show up without a reservation, didn't pay anything, and still have the nerve to complain like this. It was clear from the content of the review that Tom was the author, but we had no concrete evidence to prove it. However, on the night the review was posted, I received a message from Tom saying, "Look at that bad review. So stupid." Faced with the necessity to address this review, William reluctantly replied with an apology, promising to make their next visit exceptional. I was so embarrassed by my brother's behavior that I didn't even want to acknowledge him as my sibling. Let's write a post saying that this person is Tom, the hotel owner's son, and his wife, who arrived without a reservation and didn't pay a cent, staying in a usually unoccupied room. We can get the internet users to criticize him for us. I suggested to Tommy and my in-laws. We can't do that. It might lead to you being attacked. My father-in-law objected, seizing on the concern that bad rumors in the hospitality industry could be damaging. Tom took advantage of the situation. He contacted William. "I'll be bringing a very important guest next time, so make sure we're treated grandly," Tom said. "You know what might happen if there are any mishaps, right?" This was accompanied by a threatening tone. It was as if he thought he was a king. When did Tom become such a despicable person? Staying at a hotel beyond his status was the beginning of it all. I regret ever bringing him along, thinking it was just a life experience. Understandably, this time Tony and William were furious. Employee dissatisfaction was reaching a breaking point, and they couldn't deal with Tom anymore. My parents and I apologized for all the trouble caused so far and assured them that he wouldn't be a nuisance anymore. We told them to do whatever necessary if we couldn't stop Tom. My parents and I reached out to Tom. When we pressed him about his actions, he said, "I just came because you said I could come anytime. Why are you mad? Offering family services is normal." He refused to listen to our concerns. "Even my mother-in-law and sister-in-law's relatives stay at regular rates," I argued. Tom's obliviousness to his wrongdoing was exasperating. Ignoring our advice, my brother and his wife brought the president of a client company to the hotel, apparently intending to entertain them. Such audacity. The president was accompanied by their spouse and daughter's family. Tom was overjoyed, thinking he could impress the president. He thought the president might like him and thus lead to securing a contract. I was secretly observing as Tony had asked, but felt like grabbing Tom by the collar and throwing him out right then. Tony and William, prepared for the day, promptly escorted the president's family to a nice room. Guided by Tommy, Tom then demanded, "Not just for us. Make this stay free for our guests too, okay? This is a business entertainment. If I can impress the president here, my performance at work will improve. You understand, right? I'm counting on you. You know what will happen if anything goes wrong, right?" he added, a veiled threat in his tone. The Tom I knew was ambitious but normal. When did he become someone who resorts to threats? I even thought of getting the police involved, but Tommy and William reassured me. "Naomi, it's not your fault. Don't worry, just act normally," they said. Relying on their assurance, we decided to observe how things would unfold. Then came dinner time. Tom acted as if it was his own hotel. "Our cuisine is exceptional. You're in for a treat," he said smoothly, escorting the president's family. My brother and his wife seemed quite in their element. The more I saw, the angrier I got. I wanted to knock some sense into him right there. The first thing served to the group upon being seated was an aperitif. The glasses were beautiful, but the contents were just cheap liquor. They were toasting and enjoying themselves, but Tom seemed oblivious to the bland taste. Meanwhile, the president's family, though puzzled, continued to chat amiably. Then the food arrived, and Tom and his wife panicked. Their table was laden with fast food, instant ramen, snack foods, bottled Coke, and canned beer. The CEO's family was stunned, looking over the table in surprise. Tom was furious. "Is this an insult? Call the owner right now," he demanded, summoning William. William and Tony arrived, calm as ever. "Yes, how can we help you?" William asked. "Well, it was pretty much the expected turn of events, wasn't it? What's this food? Are you joking?" Tom raised his voice, drawing attention from everyone around. "I'm not joking around here. What is this? It's like fast food. Bring out the real dishes," Tom shouted. "I apologize, but this is the meal provided for guests who stay without a reservation for free. Without a reservation payment, we are unable to prepare other dishes," William explained. Caught off guard by being called out for freeloading in front of the president he was entertaining, Tom stumbled over his words and glanced sideways at the president's family. The president, as well as his wife and daughter, were looking at Tom with cold, disapproving eyes. Then William delivered the final blow. Turning to the CEO, he explained, "I don't know what this gentleman told you to invite you here, but he frequently stays without paying, using his distant relation. That would be tolerable. But he's also been posting harmful reviews on our website, affecting our business. Since he's staying for free today, we regret that this is the only meal we can offer." William then smiled, trying to salvage the situation, revealing everything to the CEO. Tom turned pale. The CEO looked at Tom and said, "Is what I just heard true?" The client CEO asked Tom, "No, please stay. I never meant for something like this to happen." Tom stammered, caught off guard by this unexpected turn of events. "I've lost my appetite for dinner. I'll be leaving now, and I'll need to reconsider our future business dealings," the CEO said. He then stood up, ignored Tom's pleas to wait, and left the dining area with William. "Wait please, President. It's not what it looks like." Tom tried to stop them, but the only ones left behind were my brother and his wife. They were completely dejected, slumping down in defeat, drawing scornful glances from other guests. "They stayed without paying. I can't believe it. Unforgivable." "Maybe they're the ones who wrote that bad review on the website," guests murmured, creating a noisy atmosphere. Unable to let the guests dine peacefully, Tony and the staff escorted Tom and his wife out. "You ruined my business entertainment. What will I do if the deal falls through?" Tom protested loudly. "Be warned, if you continue to make a scene, we'll call the police," Tony warned. That quieted them down. To apologize to our guests for the inconvenience, I asked the chef to prepare a complimentary dish for each guest. It was unfortunate that they had to experience this unpleasantness during their otherwise lovely trip. In the end, the angry corporate president packed up and left, and upon hearing this, Tom also left the hotel. They couldn't do anything since they were threatened with police involvement. A few days later, the client CEO visited Tom's company. Tom turned pale upon seeing the client CEO at his office. "The other day, I wanted to discuss something with you," said the corporate president. "Please forgive me. I'm terribly sorry," Tom pleaded. "What exactly are you sorry for?" the CEO asked. "I intended to entertain, but it all turned into a mess. Damn it, I told them to treat us right," Tom said. "You're missing the point. Don't you realize you're fundamentally mistaken?" the CEO responded. "What?" Tom was confused. "You took advantage of your sister becoming the hotel owner's son's wife and treated the hotel like it was your own. Just because you're a distant relative doesn't mean you can stay at that nice hotel for free and do whatever you like. That cannot be forgiven. Plus, inviting me there and trying to entertain me. The owner told me that you even threatened them to treat us nicely. I can't trust a company with such employees. I came today to cancel all our future contracts," the CEO declared. Tom's superiors, hearing this, were in a state of shock. Wait, please, is this true? They asked. Every word is true. I've been acquainted with the hotel owner for a long time. He confided in me about a troublesome relative who was taking advantage of his family's hotel. I didn't know it was one of your employees until I was invited for this entertainment. I witnessed everything at the hotel, and it was appalling, the CEO confirmed. We're very sorry. We will remove him from his current role. Please reconsider the business relationship, Tom's superiors pleaded. Unknown to them, the CEO had been observing Tom's behavior at the hotel with me, seeing how he threatened Tommy and everything else. Of course, they were fully aware of all the previous actions, as William had been consulting with them. It's natural that they would reconsider the business relationship given the circumstances. Tom was removed from his sales role and reassigned to a less critical support position within the company, with barely any job to do. The rumor that he was staying at the hotel without paying quickly spread within his company, making his work environment uncomfortable. My parents and I decided to cut ties with Tom. My parents made him vow to never approach the hotel again, including our family home, and wrote a pledge to that effect. We asked Tommy to bill Tom for all his unpaid stays, which amounted to a substantial sum. Tom begged for a payment plan, clearly overwhelmed. Meanwhile, the hotel benefited from the CEO's support. He's quite famous and praised our hotel in an interview, calling it a wonderful place. His endorsement, along with his assurance to his contacts that the negative reviews online were not to be believed, brought many new distinguished guests to the hotel. The gap between the online reviews and the actual experience at our hotel became a topic of discussion, with Tom's negative reviews ironically attracting more guests. The hotel is always fully booked, especially on weekends. Lately, I have been helping out with accounting and as a front office manager. It's all new to me, but I find it fulfilling to contribute to our guests' wonderful experiences. My name is Alice. I'm 28 years old, and I work in childcare. Recently, I got engaged to my boyfriend Tom, and today I'm visiting his parents' house for the first time. Tom graduated from a prestigious university and works for a renowned company. He's not only smart but also respected by his colleagues, and I've always admired him deeply. Tom's father welcomed our engagement warmly, saying, "We never had a daughter. Your future mother-in-law will be thrilled." However, I noticed that my future mother-in-law seemed upset, sitting next to him with a grimace on her face. While I was observing her, she suddenly asked, "I heard you didn't graduate high school. Is that true? Our Tom is an elite, having graduated from a famous university. Do you think I'd approve of a marriage between an elite and someone of your status?" I was taken aback by her harsh words. "Mother-in-law, how can you say such things? You're being rude to Alice," Tom's father interjected. "Exactly, Mom. Her educational background shouldn't matter," Tom added, standing up for me. But this only seemed to upset her more. Isn't it natural for a mother to be concerned about the education and occupation of her son's future spouse? Children inherit their mother's DNA, don't they? Don't I want to leave behind excellent genes? She argued. It was clear that my future mother-in-law wasn't going to approve of me because I didn't finish high school. This was deeply hurtful. There was a reason I dropped out of high school. I grew up in a single-parent home after my father died in a traffic accident. My mother was frail and struggled to raise me and my twin sister, Emma. To alleviate her burden, I started working after middle school. Now I'm attending night school to get my high school diploma, and I'm saving money to possibly go to college. Tom has been incredibly supportive, even offering to help pay for my college education. Tom understands my background, and his kindness is one of the reasons I decided to marry him. But his mother's disapproval worries me, especially since we will be living with his parents in the future. A month before our wedding, I moved into my future in-laws' house. Between work, school, and wedding preparations, I was very busy. Today, as I was applying makeup to head to the wedding venue, my mother-in-law exclaimed, "Oh my, what on earth are you wearing?" "I'm about to head to the venue, so I thought I'd dress up," I replied, unsure if she was displeased with my outfit or just seizing an opportunity to criticize me. "Huh, you say you're going to the venue, but you're just dressing like that to attract men, aren't you? You're such a careless woman," she accused. I was stunned. I explained that I was meeting Tom at the venue and that she could ask him if she doubted me, but she just assumed the worst. Then she did something outrageous. She messed up my carefully styled hair. "Hey, what are you doing? I spent so much time getting ready," I exclaimed. With my hair a mess, I couldn't go out and had to fix it. This incident left me worried about how things would work out living with her in the future. But seeing my disheveled hair, my mother-in-law cheerfully said, "There's no need to fix it. This hairstyle suits a high school dropout like you. You should wear your hair like this for the wedding." Since I was already running late, I quickly fixed my hair and headed to the venue where Tom was waiting. He was at the entrance, immediately concerned about my downcast expression. I was torn about whether to tell him what had happened earlier, but I decided not to bring it up since we were about to discuss the ceremony and I didn't want to dampen the mood. One day, close to the wedding, my mother-in-law made a surprising suggestion. "Hey, Alice's mom lives far away, doesn't she? It must be tough for her to come and she'll have to pay for a hotel. Why doesn't she stay at our house?" Tom and I were both surprised by her sudden proposal. If we could save on hotel costs, my mother would be happy, and it would also facilitate interaction between our families. Tom suggested I ask my mother about it, so I did right away. My mother was very pleased with the idea, and it was decided that my twin sister Emma would also come that day. Initially, I thought my mother-in-law was making the suggestion out of goodwill, but I couldn't have imagined the outrageous things she would do next. The day before the wedding, my mother and sister came to stay at my in-laws' house. Seeing them made me very happy. I have a particularly close relationship with my sister, and we were so thrilled to see each other after a long time that we decided to sleep together that night. Emma, who had been drinking, fell asleep right away. No matter what happens, Emma won't wake up once she's like this. Just as I was thinking it was getting late and I should get some sleep too, I suddenly felt the door to our room open. As I wondered what it could be, I heard a loud buzzing sound followed by the noise of something being shaved. "Now you won't be able to attend tomorrow's ceremony, will you? No me for hair for a poor middle school dropout," my mother-in-law said. Shocked, I turned on the room lights and exclaimed, "Mother-in-law, what are you doing?" The person in the bed suddenly sat up, startling my mother-in-law as well. "Huh? Mother-in-law, you're Alice, aren't you?" she stammered. "No, that's not my hair. We're twins and our faces really look alike, but it wasn't me whose hair was shaved with clippers. It was my sister Emma." My mother-in-law seemed to be in shock. "What? No way, why wasn't it Alice?" Emma, who had apparently drunk too much, was sound asleep. When she wakes up in the morning and realizes her hair has been shaved off, she will surely be very angry. Unlike me, Emma has a strong temperament, so it's obvious she'll be furious. "What will you do now, mother-in-law? I'm not going to cover for you." Feeling guilty, my mother-in-law left the room with a pale face. The next day, Emma looked in the mirror and was shocked and furious to find she was bald. Our mother, who was present at the scene, also shed tears in shock, and Tom could not hide his disturbance. "This is terrible. Who on earth did this?" Tom asked. I revealed everything that had happened the previous night in front of everyone. I was wondering what kind of face my mother-in-law would wake up with this morning, but she wasn't there. According to my father-in-law, she said she was going for an early morning walk and hadn't returned yet. I thought she had run away, so I revealed everything to our relatives and decided to search for her. About 30 minutes later, I got a call from a relative saying they had found her at a nearby convenience store and my father-in-law headed there. When my mother-in-law returned home, she was full of excuses. "I didn't do anything. It's all Alice's fault. Alice used the clippers on her own and shaved off Emma's hair while she was sleeping next to her." To my surprise, my mother-in-law was trying to pin the blame on me. Shocked, I retorted, "Don't be ridiculous. I didn't do anything. Weren't you the one who came into the room yesterday? It's terrible that you're still lying at this point." Even so, my mother-in-law was reluctant to admit her guilt. Then my father-in-law, as if he had remembered something, went outside and came back with something. "Alice, could this be the clipper?" Looking at the clipper in his hand, I recognized it immediately. "That's it. That's the clipper. But where was it?" It turned out that the clipper originally belonged to my father-in-law, who was always concerned about his appearance and carried grooming tools with him. When he checked his car, the bag containing his grooming tools was ransacked, and the clipper was the only thing missing. I always leave my car keys in the bedroom. If there's brown hair in this clipper, it's definite that the culprit is your mom, he said, starting to dismantle the clipper. Inside there was brown hair, undoubtedly Emma's. It must have been because she had to rush out in the dark that my mother-in-law couldn't properly dispose of the hair. Seeing the remaining hair, my mother-in-law collapsed to her knees. Alice, it's your fault. Despite being a middle school dropout and poor, you deceived smart Tom. I wanted you to give up on him at all costs. I became disgusted by her selfish words. But the angriest was Emma, whose hair had been shaved off. I don't care about your circumstances. What are you going to do about this? I can't attend the wedding like this. Hearing Emma's complaint, my father-in-law made a call to an acquaintance who was a hairdresser. He agreed to rush over with a wig right away. This would temporarily solve Emma's hair problem. But they couldn't just leave my mother-in-law's actions unaddressed. 30 minutes later, the hairdresser arrived with a wig, and Emma's hair was beautifully restored. At first, my father-in-law thought about shaving my mother-in-law's hair as retribution, but it didn't feel satisfying. So he decided to expose her wrongdoing in front of everyone. Among the attendees were landlords to whom my mother-in-law's parents had been indebted for generations. They were close friends with my father-in-law, and hearing about this incident would undoubtedly impact my mother-in-law's parents' house. The landlord, a righteous person, had been giving them a discount on their apartment rent. Learning about my mother-in-law's actions could mean raising the rent back to its original price or even evicting them. Her parents were poor and had no money. If they were evicted, they would surely come to my mother-in-law's place. But she didn't get along with her parents and wouldn't care for them. Living with her parents would undoubtedly be the beginning of hell for her. Wait, please. I'll be in trouble if you do that. I'm sorry. It was my fault. I got carried away and did such a thing. I'm sorry, Emma. I'll pay you damages, so please forgive me, my mother-in-law pleaded, rubbing her forehead against the floor. But even with apologies, Emma's hair would not come back. After discussion, it was decided that my father-in-law and Tom would reveal my mother-in-law's wrongdoings. Emma had already agreed to this. My mother-in-law said she didn't want to go to the wedding and tried to run away. But she couldn't because Emma and Tom held her back. Upon arrival at the venue, relatives who knew the situation through messages came to us looking very worried. We exposed my mother-in-law's wrongdoing in front of everyone, and Emma took off her wig to show her bald head. Everyone was shocked, especially the women who couldn't believe it. Hair for a woman is like a lifeline. Imagine the shock of having it suddenly shaved off with clippers. Thinking of Emma, some people were in tears. Then, as expected, the landlord came to my mother-in-law and asked if what happened was true. At first, she tried to deceive him, but my father-in-law urged her to tell the truth, and she finally confessed. The landlord, flushed with anger, was also accused by the women. After that, my mother-in-law remained downcast during the ceremony, which was unimaginable from her usually spirited self. The wedding itself ended smoothly, and it was a great joy to be blessed by many people. However, we could no longer live with my mother-in-law in that house. Naturally, we decided to move into an apartment and live as a couple. My mother-in-law panicked about us leaving the house. She cried out that it was her fault and begged us not to leave, but we couldn't live with her. My father-in-law felt the same. He told my mother-in-law that he was going to divorce her and asked her to leave the house. She turned pale and clung to him, saying, "Please reconsider. Where will I live if I leave this house? You know, I don't get along with my parents. If they find out about the divorce, they'll definitely tell me to come back to care for them." She was trembling as if she could collapse at any moment, but thinking about Emma, I didn't care about my mother-in-law's situation. I never dreamed my hair would be shaved off while I was sleeping, mistaken for me. She persistently tried to persuade us afterward, but since my father-in-law contacted her parents, she reluctantly left the house. Currently, my mother-in-law is living with her estranged parents and seems to be taking care of them. Apparently, her parents have difficult personalities, and she is completely worn out by their selfishness. She has called us several times to say she wants to start over, but we have no intention of living with her, so we just blocked her calls. Now we are living happily with my father-in-law in his home. The house was quite old, so we decided to renovate it together. My father-in-law built his dream study, Tom created a place to display model figures, and I installed a state-of-the-art kitchen. Of course, we also created a room for the child who will be born in the future, and now the three of us are living comfortably. Emma's hair, which was shaved at that time, has now grown back into a short style that her friends highly rate as a good change of image. She talks about that time as if it were a joke, telling various friends, which actually complicates my feelings more. Emma occasionally comes over for sleepovers at our family home, and I look forward to that. There may be many difficulties in the future, but I believe we can all work together and push through.